Hey guys, Trevor H here. Welcome to another Who Are We episode of my podcast. I have a special guest with me today. Nick, how you going?
Good, buddy. Yeah, I said at the start of this call, I think it's a small miracle, the fact that we're sat on completely opposite ends of the world and we're on a video call blows my mind.
Yeah. It's actually quite amazing. Just before we get started, just a little disclaimer: we're going to record this session and post it on the YouTube channel and put some advertising on LinkedIn or links or whatever in, just to try and raise awareness to other people, just to get them to consider, who they are and what they're doing, and hopefully create some good outcomes in society. That's the whole point of this. So we'll just get straight into it, Nick. Hey, so who is Nick, and what does he stand for?
Who am I and what do I stand for? That's a deeply philosophical question. I think I've been on a sort of journey really the past kind of couple of years, mainly through social, I guess, and my own kind of personal journey. Those two things are sort of coalesced, and I sort of I don't know if it was a midlife crisis or whether I sort of I don't know. I just got to a point in my life where I felt like I needed to kind of make a change, really. So I went through a bit of trauma as a child, and I've got two kids. I've got a 4-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter, and they enabled me to effectively kind of make a change in my life. So I started posting on LinkedIn maybe about kind of 4 years ago. And if you actually look at my content, you can see the kind of shift or change in my content as I sort of went through that journey. And I got to a point where I kind of admitted some truths to myself, and basically sort of publicly shared that with the world and said, I've been through this thing, and I kind of come out the other side of it. And I've helped other people that have been through trauma as well. I'm part of a men's charity group that helps young men to avoid going through the prison system. So we help young men that have been through similar things through trauma themselves. And I feel like all of these kind of components of who I am, the charity work that I do in my spare time, and my business have all sort of formed into one thing, and that's kind of only recently happened. It's weird. I think I genuinely think or feel that the future of work or the future of industry is effectively kind of productizing who we are ourselves. So we've all got unique stories to share. And when we kind of put that out into the world, we can create unique products that are very distinct to us. So I kind of combine some of the elements of the work that we do in the men's charity that we do with what we do as one of our current products. We're kind of effectively taking people through a quest. We're doing social selling and taking them through this kind of journey, but we're doing it in a fun, engaging, kind of childlike, playful way, which is, adults love that stuff. It's like, I get to be a kid again and have fun. So there's a lot of elements of my childhood, my business, the charity work I do in my family, they've all kind of smushed together and made this kind of entirely unique new thing that's part of who I am, I guess. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's quite an amazing story. So obviously getting through your trauma and growing up and trying to adapt and talking about some of the things you went has led you to your superpower, I suppose, now, isn't it? Just telling your story and listening to other people's stories, and that's becoming, or is who you are now, just through that experience that you had.
Yeah, there is inherent power in stories, and it's, if you look at it since the dawn of time, it's how we passed on knowledge and communication, and there's an inherently curious nature to human beings, and stories kind of pique that curiosity. It's like, what happens next? So yeah, I think by sharing your story or sharing our stories, I almost think of stories as like living things. It sounds weird, but when your story kind of combines with someone else's story, they kind of smush together, and then it's like they have a little story babies come out of it, and then these new things come out of it, and it's how we've always communicated as a species, and by sharing our knowledge and our stories, we empower and enable other people to kind of step into their power as well. There's a really great quote by Marianne Williamson, and I can't remember it in complete detail, but she says that we're not made to kind of shrink. We're made to kind of shine brightly and basically kind of share our gifts with the world, and that empowers other people to kind of step up to the plate and do the same. So I can't remember the quote in its detail, but that's the succinct version of it.
And it seems to me that a big part of telling stories, even just hearing yours then, is about helping other people understand that they're not alone in their thinking, or not alone in their feeling, or not alone in their trauma, or not alone in whatever it is the story is about. And it helps create normal vibes when people are often uncomfortable and shy or embarrassed about something that happened to them or something, but hearing someone else talk about it, then it gives them a bit more confidence. Is that what you're finding?
Yeah, I think it's I think stories are almost like they can be therapeutic. It's I, as a kid, I disappeared into stories in my imagination. I consumed so many books. I disappeared into books and movies as a kid, because those spaces enable you to explore stuff that you probably wouldn't feel comfortable exploring in the real world, but they do it in a safe space where you can process that information. And that's what stories, I think, do. They give you, you look at myths and legends, they enable you to kind of explore these sort of archetypal things that make up what we are to be human, but they do it in a way that's kind of light of touch and feels safe for you to explore that. And we use a mechanism in the men's work that we do called the hero's journey. I don't know if you're familiar with it, Joseph Campbell, where the hero kind of starts out and goes through this transformation process. And that's a kind of archetypal theme in a lot of kind of Greek myths and a lot of storytelling. Star Wars is a great example of the hero's journey. It's like classic hero's journey. So the hero kind of leaves the village. Luke leaves Tatooine. He meets Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's his guide, and then they go to the Death Star, and then there's this kind of transformation aspect that goes on with the character, and it's like an inner journey. So they discover something in themselves that was there all along, rather than it kind of being this external thing. It's like it's been inside all along. So we've taken a lot of aspects of that and combined it into the training and the stuff that we do. So and the other thing I want to pick up on as well, there's a trolley driving past here, but the other thing I want to pick up is your ability to be able to incorporate a lot of these elements of you're talking about your charity work, you're talking about some of your childhood experiences, and you're talking about your business and some of your passions with your storytelling, and trying to combine that. And you're finding now that you've got a good balance of it being more intertwined, I think was the word you used, was it? Yeah, there's a really good book by Robert Greene called Mastery, I read a little while ago, and I had a kind of epiphany moment while listening to that. So he talks about people like Einstein, Newton, Darwin. All these people had specific things that happened to them in their early lives that kind of shaped and were transformative in the later part of their career, when they became, when they became experts or masters in what they do. And you think that all the stuff that's gone before doesn't apply, but you can take elements of that, and it's very intrinsic to what you know now. So by taking two kind of disparate elements of something, so I took the fact that as a kid I feel like I missed out on a lot of my childhood. I've taken that kind of play element and integrated it with what we do from our training side of stuff, so that I'm getting adults to feel like kids again and kind of go through this quest and journey. So you're taking these two disparate things which are not interconnected, and you kind of smush them together, and then you get something that's entirely new and unique and doesn't exist. So
and you're also saying too about your belief that commodities, like our own personality as a commodity moving forward in the future. And it's something that perhaps I can relate to a lot, your words in saying that, because it's something that I feel I've been transitioning towards as well. But I'm interested to hear, is there any theory, or have you got any, what creates that sort of statement, do you think?
Well, we've there's a lot of people obsessed with the term personal brand at the moment, but I think that's a very surface level driven thing. And I think if you look at, I'm very fascinated by it, and that's why obviously I'm on this podcast talking about who you are. The core value sets that make you who you are distinct to you, but those core value sets also attract other people who are like you. There's a really great quote by Steve Jobs, and I think it was Lisa Brennan Jobs, his daughter. I overheard him say it once. He's never been quoted as saying it, but she said that she overheard him say it, and he said it's not love that brings people together, it's values, shared values. So when you see someone, or it's almost like a kind of animal instinctual thing, when you recognize someone else that has the same core value sets as you do, there's this kind of like, it's like a spark. It's like, oh, I see myself in you, and then you can begin a dialogue with that person, and then they kind of become part of your tribe. So all the things that you think make you kind of a goofball or odd or weird or distinct are the very things that pull people like you towards you. So that uniqueness, there's inherent power in that uniqueness, and everyone has their own specific story, and everyone is unique. So there is, that sort of productizing of yourself and your story, and kind of understanding what your story is super important. I think not just in the world of sort of productizing ourselves, but in the future of work as well. And I think it goes beyond this concept of personal brand that a lot of people talk about. It's a much deeper level than that. So.
Yeah, because even getting clients or trying to sell products or something, obviously it's easier to sell to people that share similar values or similar mindsets to you, because obviously if you're marketing something and people on a different wavelength than you, then it's hard to market to their wavelength. You're marketing to your wavelength and what you understand the world to be. Then so it makes sense that sort of glue sort of attracts people together.
And it's almost like I said, it's almost this kind of animal instinctual. It's like an unsaid thing. Like you can kind of almost like kind of smell it on other people. It's like I recognize you because you are like me, and that's powerful. It's super powerful. But I think you need to be aware of that and conscious of it. And some people aren't. They aren't, or maybe they're not aware of it. Maybe they're too afraid to kind of lean into it too much, because of things that may have happened to them in their past, or whatever else it may be. So I think that's where your superpower is. It's like you are unique, and the more you lean into who you are, the better off you're going to be, and the happier.
Understanding who you are, and I think that's one of the reasons why I started this podcast in the first place, because everyone is unique and have their own superpower. It's just trying to help people discover their superpower, I think. But I'm interested to hear whether you've actually made a conscious effort to identify your values, or is it just something that just through your stories, is it that's been found, or how did you go about it?
So I worked with a coach a little while ago called Mike, and he got me to unpack my core values, and he said, which kind of rings true, it's like you, as an adult, you overcompensate for the things that you didn't have as a kid. So they become your formative parts of your core values. So my 3 core values are trust, leadership, and community. The leadership component I get from work, the trust component I get from my family, and the what's the other one? Community aspect I get from the work that I do with Band of Brothers, the charity that I work for. So I'm your subconsciously looking for those things in your life, but it's great when you identify what they are and identify what those core values are. It's much easier, like I said, to attract the people that have similar core values to you.
Yeah.
And the thing that we used for that was a DeMartini test. So it kind of gets you to go through these. It asks you questions like, what do you surround yourself with in your work environment? And I've got like little vinyl toys. I've got like pictures of movies and stuff like that. So there's a lot of kind of sort of childlike elements of things around me and kind of storytelling elements around me. And we do that on a subconscious level. But when you actually make it conscious and you look at all this stuff around you, it's like, oh, that makes sense why that's there. But there's so much of our day to day that we go through, and we just do stuff on a subconscious level, and we're not conscious of what we're doing a lot of the time. So those are my three core values: is community, leadership, and trust. And trust for me is a big one, because obviously coming from kind of going through that trauma and abuse, I find it very, very difficult to trust people, and it's something I'm still kind of working on. But being conscious of it and understanding where that comes from is super, super important, because you get, sometimes you'll get triggered by something or something happens. It's like, well, I'm aware of why that's happening because of X, because this happened. So
So understanding emotions, it sounds like it's become a big part of discovering, who you are, and you feel by understanding who you are, and you can focus more on nurturing yourself and self-care and putting yourself in these positions that are beneficial for you, and it all comes through understanding. It sounds like discovery, almost.
Yeah, we do a lot of work that we do in the men's group that we do is tied to emotions, and we had a brief conversation about this before. So we use a number of Jungian archetypes to attribute to the sort of male psyche, and they are the I might get this wrong, but they are the sovereign, the warrior, the lover, and the magician.
Yeah.
So your sovereign kind of governs the other three ones, but the sovereign also takes kind of charge from them as well. So your magician energy is your kind of thinking energy, is your mind, and it's the strategizing part of you. Your warrior energy as a man is your kind of getting stuff done energy, and your boundaried energy, it's like, I'm gonna do this thing, I'm gonna get into action and do it and get it done. And then your lover energy is relationships and emotion and sex, all that kind of stuff. And that's governed by the sovereign, like I said before. So you can have too little or too much of this as well. So if you're too much sovereign, you're a tyrant. But if you're too little sovereign, you abdicate, and you're like, oh, I can't do that. I don't, I haven't got the skill or time or effort to do that thing, and you sort of abdicate from doing it. So it's seeking balance in those kind of archetypes, and to me as a man, it kind of, it makes sense as a sort of modeling or framework way of looking at the world.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing all that. It's been great talking to you tonight, Nick. I've got a pretty good understanding of who you are, and it's been interesting to hear you say how you've actually purposely went out and tried to identify your core values and working into your everyday life to try and do all that. And I feel that could be quite beneficial for other people to consider looking at who they are and working out things internally for themselves. So I feel there's a lot of value that you offered through this podcast. Have you got any last final things to say to people before we wind up?
I guess for me is the old know thyself. Really, it's like do the work to understand who you are and what your story is, so that you can put that out into the world and hopefully help other people. But yeah, I think so many people do go through their lives and they don't clearly identify or don't have a clear picture of who they are as a person, or maybe they're doing a lot of things subconsciously, or maybe there's sort of patterns of behavior that they go through, and it's like, well, I keep doing these things, but I don't understand why I'm doing these bad things or negative things. So being more kind of grounded and conscious of who you are and what you're doing and why you're doing it, I think is can only be good for everyone around you, really. So
reflective, I feel could cover that. It's a bit reflective
yeah,
of
yeah.
some of the behavior. Yeah. No, that's
yeah.
great. Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. And maybe later on in the podcast we can catch up again and have further in depth of your archetypes, because it sounds very interesting.
Yeah, I'd love to do that, buddy. Cheers.
No worries. Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, cheers, buddy. Take care.